Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's another edition of Let's Talk Buffs. I feel like I haven't been here for a bit. A lot has happened since, man. It's a huge, huge day. I mean, for us, it was yesterday. Early signing day for a lot of these kids and the Buffs. They have a good group here, and I'm excited to talk about it with you, Carter. But first, how are you feeling today, man?
Pretty good. Not as bent about Houston not taking care of business about BYU. Conference games are this weekend. We should be previewing that Big 12 championship game with Colorado in it, but fortunately we're not. We're looking forward to a bowl game. But yeah, excited to talk about some of the newest buffs.
Some of the newest buffs for sure. So let's just hop straight into it. Actually, before then, I would like to tell everybody, please like to the show. Please subscribe if you aren't already. That's what helps Carter and I grow. It would be bad if I didn't say that. Please subscribe. But let's get straight into it. Signing day. There were no shocks to me in this. It wasn't like, hey, there was a big flip. Even we're going to get to a kid that ended up not coming to see who he flipped. That really wasn't even shocking to me from everything I heard leading up to it. But the Buffs came away with 14 recruits, still a smaller class than what your average NCAA recruiting class would look like. But that's just how Colorado does it. I don't think anyone should go into this being like, damn, we didn't get 25 like the other schools did, because that's just not how we build a football team. We're going to build a football team through the portal, and these are going to be kids. Prime compares it to the draft. This is the draft class. These are guys we're looking to develop, and hopefully we hit home runs here instead of just filling out 1 or 2 year starters for the Buffs. But Carter, what are your first thoughts on this recruiting class? What stands out to you?
Yeah, I think it's a good class for sure. I think we definitely hit some positions where they're gonna have an instant impact, like the headliner of the class, Julian Lewis, maybe some of those offensive linemen. Just bulking up this team. You know, you're getting wide receivers that look like they could be stars, like Quentin Gibson or Quinal Farrakhan, and just filling other needs too. Like you said, I don't think there was any surprise that Alex Graham wasn't going to be coming to Colorado. I think they knew that for a while now. And I do think it's pretty notable that they didn't go out and try to get another incoming freshman corner. I think they just they just get what they can there and they swing big. This staff really goes for quality over quantity. You can look at that TCU recruiting where they have 20 some commits and 90% of them are 3 stars,
Yep.
who, they'll probably transfer out after a year. So I do really like this class. I think there's a lot of players that are going to be key contributors early and key contributors in 1 year and in 2 years. And even some of the lower ranked guys are going to shock people, even as a freshman. So I do really like this class going forward.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think when you start taking away from the obvious and biased recruiting sites, it really starts to hit home. My gosh, like this Alex Graham kid, we'll get to him. I keep saying it, but going from a 3 star to a 4 star, the moment he gets out of Colorado, stuff like that, there's some biases in here. And I don't even know if it's necessarily just against Colorado. It might even just be a Big 12 thing, just generally. It could be a lot of reasons. But you start going to the ESPN one, which I feel like goes back to what it was before these kids started showing interest in Colorado. It paints a lot pretty of a picture here than what maybe On3 or some of these other recruiting sites would show. A bunch of 4 stars. You have a 5 star in there too. ESPN's number 2 quarterback in Julian Lewis. Uh, the one that really gets me excited is London Merritt from IMG. That's a really exciting one to me. When I talk about, hey, the bus flipped Julian Lewis from USC, a quarterback from USC. That's a big deal. From Lincoln Riley, right? Who is a quarterback whisperer. That's his whole calling card, and why USC would even hire a guy like that is the offenses and quarterbacks he puts on the field. Well, Colorado stole a guy from him. Well, we could go down the list on Ohio State edge rushers, right? Down the list. But the Bosa brothers. I know we're Broncos fans. Draymond Jones. They've Jonathan Cooper is in the NFL right now. they have so many edge rushers, and I'm missing a ton. This is edge rush you for the Buffs to go out there and flip an edge rusher from Ohio State, especially who went to IMG Academy. It seems like a big deal to me. The thing that most stands out, though, is the area they went the heaviest in this, still not a lot of kids. The area where they focused the most were on the trenches. 3 offensive linemen, 3 defensive linemen, 2 tight ends. That accounts for 8 of your 14 right there. So I think that's a smart way of doing it too. I think if there's an area you want to develop, it's probably those trench spots. We've all seen it here in Colorado. If you've been rooting it on, if you're following this podcast, I'm sure you're a big fan. That's an area where I think the transfer portal is a lot more hit or miss than maybe the skilled positions on the field. So I think that's a good strategy to focus in on O-line, D-line, tight end.
Yeah, you nailed that at the end there. You look at a guy like Tyler Johnson, who going into the season, this was probably the highest ranked transfer offensive lineman we got and didn't see the field and was no longer with the team sometime during the season. So you're exactly right. And you want guys that Lode Holt can build a long-term relationship with, watches a lot of him. It's not as rushed as the portal might feel. And a guy that he really can see himself developing, like a Carday Smith, like a Chauncey Gooden, or even like a Jay Gardenhire, the huge offensive lineman they got there. But yeah, trenches is definitely what this team needs, and they'll definitely do their fair share in the portal as well. And they got some guys from their class last year that could step up going forward, like Brandon Davis Swain. But yeah, London Merritt, that's definitely one guy on the trenches that I'm really excited about as well. He talked about on the nightcap wanting to get freshman All-American honors. So it's just cool to see how hungry these guys are and how much they really want to be a Buff. But yeah, this class is hopefully gonna experience a Big 12 championship.
Absolutely. So Carter, I'm interested in yours though. Who are you most excited about? It's not necessarily considering first year. I'll get to that on the next question here. But who are you most excited about? Who do you think maybe is a guy in this class, not including Julian Lewis? That would be a cheat code. Who you think just makes a huge impact overall? So within the next 4 years.
Yeah, this is so hard. I could go a couple different ways. I really like that Alexander McPherson. I really like a bunch of these guys. I'll give you one on both sides of the ball because it's too hard to just pick one. On offense, obviously Julian. I'm gonna go with Quentin Gibson. Watching this guy run around high-class Texas football teams, putting up the numbers he's got a crazy amount of touchdowns on the year. He's going to be a guy that he talked about wanting to be the new LeJohntay Wester, and just a guy with a ton of speed and burst, and seemingly going to fit right into what the Buffs are on offense. His connection with Julian Lewis, I hopefully will just skyrocket from day one they start together. So that's a guy with just unlimited area to grow, especially if he gets in a college weight room and can add some pounds while also getting faster and everything else that comes with getting to college. On defense, though, I like Mantrez Walker a lot. We're obviously losing some great players in our linebacker room, like Nakai, who we're both huge fans of, Levonta Bentley. We've had some red shirts, potential transfers out. There's going to be holes there. And I could see Mantrez coming in freshman year and playing early. He plays for Buford, which is a top Georgia high school. I think him and Julian's team are playing this Friday night. So he's a guy that I see contributing year one and for years to come, and hopefully is one of the next linebackers drafted from CU if Nakai does end up getting drafted.
Yeah, I love both those picks. For me, I'm going to give you 2 as well. I'm going to give you 2.
It's so hard.
It is really hard. I love the Quentin Gibson call out. I'm wondering, I'm going to throw mine out there too, but I'm wondering like, hey, so if there was a punt and kick returner this year, it was LeJohntay Wester or Jimmy Horn. And if it wasn't them, it was Colton Hood. And Colton Hood, honestly, I wasn't the biggest fan of on punt or kick return. Love him at DB, not a kick or punt returner. I'm wondering if Quentin Gibson has an opportunity to at least compete for that role year one. A sleeper for that role also would be a guy who redshirted this year in Cam McHale, who's like a speed demon down there, could maybe win that job. But I think he might have a shot at least competing for that. And hey, some year one impact there possibly. For me, though, and you mentioned him, Alexander McPherson is a guy that may be a gem in this class. When you're talking about a 6'5" edge rusher, so he has the height and length to be a really good edge rusher. And then you start putting the production in there as well. Went from to IMG Academy, which is the highest level of football you can get to, damn near, right? And leading that team in sacks 2 years straight, it kind of makes you wonder, wait, how was this guy a 3-star across the board? Doesn't even make sense. So that might be a gem there. And then another one, I'm going to give a shout to a Colorado kid, Zane D'Souza, the tight end. This one I'm really excited for because the Buffs need tight end help desperately. Need it desperately, like really bad. I think everyone's wondering, hey, why do the Buffs run inside zone so much? It's inside zone, inside zone, inside zone, inside zone. Well, I'll tell you, and I don't want to make too many excuses for Shermer because it could have been better, a lot better. But when you can't even get into personnel packages that are more than one tight end, and then the one tight end you do have out there is a guy that you just switched to the position like 2 weeks ago is what it felt like in practice. I don't know. This one makes a lot of sense, especially when accounting for his size at a 260-pound tight end. If he can go in there and just be an ass kicker in the run game, he's going to get playing time in year one, and it's going to help the Buffs dramatically, like a lot. So that's my other one there. I'm really excited about him.
I love both of those picks. Both guys that there's a clear opportunity to play early. We're losing a lot of guys in that D line. We'll get to some award winners later, like BJ. And Alexander McPherson has expressed his versatility or his want to be versatile on that defensive line, whether it's at tackle or edge or wherever he wants to rotate in there. And then obviously one of the biggest holes on the team is tight end. So I could totally see Zane being the starting guy there. I assume they'll add in the portal, but there's definitely an opportunity to compete there for Zane.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And so I've been teasing it the whole show, getting mad at recruiting services, the whole nine. We did have one kid flip at the last second, and that's Alex Graham, the cornerback. Ended up flipping to USC. This was one for me, Carter, that didn't shock me, just following the whole situation. It makes you wonder even why, like, hey, maybe we should have pulled that scholarship there because it just never felt like he was actually going to be a Buff. What's your read there? Did this one shock you? Do you think this is a huge loss for the Buffs?
No, I don't think it is, and I think the staff doesn't either. I talked about it earlier. They could have pivoted to multiple other corners in this class and try to get a flip. They took their chance. All right, maybe Alex comes, maybe he doesn't. The thing that did kind of surprise me a little bit is where he did end up at USC.
Okay.
I really thought he was going to just stay home with Michigan with all the momentum they're gaining. They stole another one of they didn't steal, but beat out CU for NOB we'll talk about later as well. So I don't think this is a big detriment to the class at all. I mean, we're never going to struggle finding DBs that want to come play for Coach Prime. Just a guy that didn't want to come get coached by the best. And I mean, I respect everybody's decision. But no, I don't think the staff's too worried about this one.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, when you look at it, it would be nice to have a developmental guy here in the cornerback room. I would welcome it. I'm not going to sit there and be like, hey, the Buffs just don't need him at all. Like, Alex Graham, get off our team. I'm not going to sit there and pretend like that's the case at all. I just also think when I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, how much does this actually hurt the recruiting class? And comparing it to what the Buffs have on their roster currently, they have two younger cornerbacks on their team right now who are set to start. It's not like they need a day one guy to come in. And just knowing how the Buffs usually build, it's really not even through there. He's going to be able to get portal guys. That's what he's done. I think we're in for some fireworks in the coming days, right? Even like it's going to come through the portal. He's proven it time after time. I mentioned how important it is to build through the trenches that way. I'm not through recruiting. I'm not so sure it's the same for the skilled position players. Almost all of our star players at these other positions have came through the portal. So hey, I think they'll be fine at corner at the end of the day.
And
Did
one
go
more
ahead.
thing on that real quick. I mean, they've already seemingly might have learned their lesson recruiting high school corners, missing out on Charles Lester last minute, and then obviously the Cormani McLean situation as well. I mean, and they turned to the portal last year and got guys like Colton Hood and DJ McKinney, who have been very, very solid players going forward, like you said. So I think there might be a new way Prime and the staff goes about this, and they obviously will welcome some young guys if they want. But I just don't get it from a young cornerback's perspective.
Yeah, bro, I feel bad for Cormani. Every time I go on YouTube, I feel like I'm seeing a video of like what happened to Cormani McLean, and then he starting there at the end, and then I think he got benched again. And people are like having a YouTube video for every single step of his career. It's just ridiculous. I feel bad for him. I'm not a fan. Um, all right, cool. So let's talk about NOB, the inside linebacker there, who is the brother of Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah on the Browns, who's a stud. This is a player I really wanted, if I'm being honest with you. This is probably the biggest blow to this one or to this. It wasn't like the bus expected him all the way because he was deciding between, I think, 3 schools there at the end. It just didn't end up going the Buffs away. Shout out to that billionaire lady at Michigan who's just handing out bags left and right. I'm not saying that's the reason he chose them, but I do think there's at least some pause there. I think there's a lot of kids that's the reason why they went to Michigan at least.
Yeah, this one stung. I felt good about this one up until the day of, or up until I've been seeing what's going on with other kids going to Michigan and how much money they're going. Why not sprinkle another one in there with Nathaniel Usu-Boateng? This is a guy that would have came in and been a starter day one. I think he's linebacker, 5-star on some sites. I think 4-star industry from another IMG kid. He was down to CU, Notre Dame, Michigan. It was really just a 2-horse race between Michigan and CU, and ultimately it chose Michigan and more money. It is definitely safe to say. I'm not, like you said, couldn't be his complete decision, but definitely a swaying factor.
Yeah.
But this one really hurt.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't at least be shocking if Michigan ponied up more money than Colorado did. That's something that we can at least safely say, right? Especially for a prospect of his caliber, right? A really, really promising linebacker there for them. Hey, good for him though. At the end of the day, Michigan puts out a lot of defenders into the NFL every single year. They historically always have a good defense down there, and I'm sure he'll prosper. Just as a Buffs fan, it sucks.
Yeah, grass isn't always greener. I put out a tweet that was kind of, I mean, it's not fair. It's not fair to say this about NLB, but it was the same position. Just reminded me of something. Posted a picture of DJ Lundy, who chose the bag to go back to Florida State, and we've all seen how that turned out. Obviously, not the same situation as all, but we've seen a guy like Jaquan McCroy who threw the Colorado hat off the table. And
Let's talk about that.
Let's get an update on Jaquan McCroy.
Yeah, I haven't even. We didn't even have this in my notes, but that guy. Yes, he didn't even just throw the hat. He like tight spiraled Carson Palmer that thing like he was playing frisbee golf with the hat across there. Since that day, it was like, nah, I don't want him at all. Like, I'm happy he didn't choose Colorado, honestly. But here's my thing: like, I feel like I'm just talking bad on guys, but this is not the case. Hey, best of luck to him. I hope it all works out. But as far as Colorado goes, I think that hat throwing situation takes him off the I don't want him anymore. And then secondly, also at the same time, like I don't know why he would have transferred out of Oregon. Bro, like I don't think there was ever a shot in hell he was going to start as a freshman there. So it's definitely wasn't like a playing time issue. Um, Maybe it could be a playing time issue this year for him. I'm good on players like that. Once they choose not to come here, I don't want to circle back and be like, please come here. That's not who I think Colorado is. Uh, Especially at the right tackle position where it feels like, hey, we just signed 2 right tackles this offseason. We have a younger kid on the roster right now. I don't think the Buffs need 4 developmental right tackles. I'm sorry, I don't think so. So I'm going to pass on McCroy forever.
Yeah, at first I texted Joey. I was like, I looked at that size that was listed on his Fawcett's tweet, 6'8", and I'm like, maybe more. I thought about it. Nah, get this dude. Nope, we are not answering the phone. A similar situation to Winnie Watkins, who committed to Colorado right when Prime was popping, and then decommitted. Oh, Prime's leaving, and I think he tried to circle back a little bit there with Juju, and I don't think he was. I think he might have been denied a little bit. Ends up at Ole Miss. You never know what happens, but man, if you want to be a Buff, just be a Buff and just stick with the Buffs and don't expect us to circle back.
Yeah, don't be mad if we're petty after. Like this is what it is. If you throw the hat, you're not coming back. I'm sorry, that's the last thing we're doing. Let's talk about some of the guys that transferred out. No huge news here for me. Ryan Buell. Right. I think that's the most notable of the names leaving. Interior defensive lineman, athletic guy there in the center of the Buffs defense, but really didn't even play this year all that much. He did get some PT, just not a lot. I know he also got hurt at some point in the season. I have nothing bad to say about Ryan Buell. I think going to a different school, there is a chance he does go and play really well. It's just, hey, I do think the Buffs wouldn't necessarily be looking at him as this is our undoubted starter next year. I don't think that's the case. So makes sense for him to transfer out. No offense taken there.
Yeah, this is one that sucked to see because I liked him coming in this year. I thought he'd be a key contributor to this defense. He was a stud at Ohio, super athletic, like you said. And just never really found his footing, battled injuries. He looked solid in some moments, but like you said, never really saw the field as much as I assume he'd hoped. So I bet he's a contributor elsewhere. But yeah, just not seeing the field has got to be the reason for his exit.
Yeah, and then so I'll just put the other guys all into one basket on this one. I don't think all of them just need a whole segment here, but Robinson, the cornerback, Chaney, the linebacker, and then Walter Taylor, the quarterback. None of these guys just had a chance to play here. I really hope they do have prosperous careers and collegiate careers elsewhere. It just makes sense, especially for these 3 to leave Colorado. I agree with their decision. I think it makes sense for them. I don't think any of them were like pushed out. I think it just, hey, this makes the most sense for me right now. Looking at my outlook, I don't see a path for me to see the field. So I'm going to go to another school where I can prove myself. I think it makes sense for all of these guys.
Yeah, I totally agree. I like how Walt handled this whole situation. Walter Taylor being at a smaller school, following Will Shepherd here from Vandy, being in a room with Shedeur Sanders for a year, and then maybe he goes and wins a starting job elsewhere. He's super athletic.
Huge.
So yeah, I could. He is huge. I could see him going somewhere and getting some playing time, or even in packages. But yeah, the other ones just never really prospered, I guess. Namir
They never
Robinson.
even really got the opportunity. They were buried.
No,
These are guys that were buried on the roster.
Yeah,
there was never a shot for them to see the field. So
no, those are guys that are got to go G5 and find some playing time. So definitely agree with their decision, like you said.
Cool. Yeah, so no notable news. Here's the funny thing about this, though. We just said that about these players. If this was last offseason, On3 would have a whole graphic made of Walter Taylor transferring out of Colorado. What the hell is happening in Colorado? Please, someone tell me. And then everyone buying it because let's be honest here. Nobody knows the players on college teams really, except if you're really into it. Like these casual fans, they're like, oh my God, a quarterback is transferring out. It must be a dumpster fire. That's what would be going on if this was last year. So shout out to the Bus for winning some damn games because I don't want to deal with that anymore. Only I knew when they were saying the center left, it was a long snapper. Like, stop. I hated that. So that was annoying. But season's over. We got all of our anger out on last show about them losing the game. It was obviously disappointing. About how Houston ended up losing that, how it felt like Houston's quarterback, it's bubbling up again, man. How it felt like Houston's quarterback threw the game or something. It felt like,
damn it, Joey, why are you doing this to me?
it wasn't good. It was bubbling up again. But hey, happy thoughts. The Bus ended up going from one win from when Prime got here. They were a one-win football team to, in his first season, completed 4-win to now 9. Massive success here. The thing I want to ask you before we close out, what's the biggest highlight of the season in your mind? Like, if you could picture a moment when you were watching the season, what's the highlight for you?
I gotta go two here. Go two. It's so hard. Like we were talking about the signees. I got one. Man, that Baylor win, that LeJontay Wester Hail Mary, that one, I don't think I've ever jumped out of my seat during this season like I did. For getting that win and just like, boom, we are here. Big 12, you go down to UCF after that kick their ass. Baylor turns out to be a really good Big 12 team this year, so that win looks a lot better now than it did then. Sawyer Robertson's a guy. And then my other one is this last Oklahoma State game, senior day. Just kind of encapsulate. It's super sad, but also just exciting that all this stuff is happening at Colorado. Big like reflection moment watching Shedeur and Prime and Shiloh walk down on senior day. All these guys that have came with Prime, like Cam, Tyler Brown, and obviously Travis Hunter's last game in Folsom, who's a Heisman finalist. Just it was super cool to see all of that come together and how much better Colorado football is since those, because this is definitely like an era, right? We're getting into the new era with Julie and Lewis in this class. Like Shedeur is going. This is always Shedeur's team. Travis Hunter and those guys are leaving. So it felt good to end out on that big of a win. And it was just a good day to be a CU fan and just reflect on that moment.
Yeah, I mean, you picked some good ones. So I'm going to steal your first one. The Hail Mary for me, Carter, was the craziest thing. I was at a bar with Zach Seeger's friend of the show, watching that game, and I was so convinced we were losing. I was like, hey, I need my tab, right? So now as the Hail Mary's happening, I'm kind of looking at the TV, and I'm trying to put my card in the lady's thing. She has the thing over there, trying to pay, and then it happens, and my card's in the thing, and I walk off, and I literally am like, this is a huge bar, so I feel like I'm like half a mile away from this lady all of a sudden with my hands on my head. And she was looking around, and now all of a sudden Zach's signing for me because I was gone. I was up out of there. You couldn't hold my excitement, and I lost my mind when that happened. That was a massive moment for me. That Hail Mary. I think also just like seeing them then hit even more Big 12 competition. I'm like, oh, this Buffs team is real. Like, this is more of a encompassing one than one moment, but every win they got, it was just more reinsurance to me that this Buffs team's really good. All of those moments were big. And then last question for sure. Most shocking piece of the roster. So how I would say is expectation versus what actually happened. We did our preseason thing. If you guys want to go watch that is episode 1 of our podcast. So scroll all the way back where Carter and I are talking about this team a little bit in depth for the first time on the show. What shocked you the most? Who shocked you the most?
I think I might be stealing yours here, but you asked me, so I get the opportunity to. Nakai, man. I think that is the easiest answer, but I got to say it. The guy wasn't starting the first 2 weeks. And this is a guy who is gonna be an NFL draft pick. I think he second team, Big 12 all defense at the linebacker position. I got the notes later, so we'll talk when we're talking awards. But I mean, this guy's been a star all year. You're looking at Bentley. Yeah, he's probably your best linebacker. Trevor Woods was alongside him, and just boom. Nakai thrust into the lineup and has been making plays all year, hitting people hard, forcing fumbles, getting picks at the end of the year.
Awesome.
So he's been great. That is a guy that we are gonna, as Buffs fans, remember for a while. Hopefully, we see him excel in the pros.
I hope so. Get him into one of these big off-season bowl game deals. Get him in at least like the Hula Bowl. Get him in one of those. He deserves a spot in one of those based off his performance this year. Mine though. So you did steal mine, but I will go with another one. If you go and watch that first episode I'm talking about. And people might be shocked by this based off of the reputation he had going into the season, but Jordan Seaton, I figured even though he was a 5-star tackle, whatever the case may be, I did figure like, hey, he should play this year, but we should also be able to just like kind of go through the learning curve with him and develop him properly. I didn't expect so little bumps in the road this year. He does have a lot he can work on, but very rarely was I like, oh my God, Jordan Seaton's killing us out there. I never thought that one time. So shout out to him. Being such a young kid playing in the trenches, I don't think that's normal for true freshmen, especially in the trenches, to play. Usually their body's just not ready for it yet. So for Jordan Seaton to be out there and play like he did, to be the Buffs' most consistent offensive lineman from the time he stepped on the field, from the time his last game here in Boulder, of the season at least. I'm not trying to foreshadow him leaving. Please, God, no. The last game of the season in Boulder. He was a huge, awesome surprise for me. And for whatever my expectations were, well exceeded them. And then that even goes more into next offseason. I'm expecting big, big things from Jordan Seaton next year.
Yeah, I think he's the only guy that started every game on the offensive line.
Yeah, he wasn't benched
at his position. Yeah, that's a better way to put it for this group for sure. But dude, this is a guy that I do remember us talking about that. I feel like I said we're not gonna have to worry about this. I was probably a little too ahead of myself, too little hope, but it happened. So that's
you're right.
But this is the guy that like true junior year is probably gonna go be a first round pick, right? Like this guy is a stud. And he's only gonna get better with experience. Shout out to him. I think Shedeur just bought him a Maybach not too long ago.
Shedeur bought that for him?
I don't know. Shedeur said he said he protected my backside, so he had to get the back. I don't know if that was just a saying or if Seaton actually bought it, but just congrats to him. Guy is balling. He's making money. He's gonna make a lot more money when he goes to the NFL. But yeah, that's a great pick.
God damn. If that's true, Shedeur, I want to be friends, bro. Like
I don't know. I could just the way he said it was just a little okay. Maybe he bought this for him. Maybe Seaton got it for himself.
Be my friend. I don't care. Yeah, I heard you took the players of Vegas with you on your. That was a great. I heard all about this stuff. Anyways, though, great show today, Carter. This was fun. I want to remind everybody, please like and subscribe to this podcast. This is how Carter and I grow this thing. We get a lot of people viewing it and then not a lot of people subscribing it. Help us out. Help the channel grow. It'd mean a lot to us. And then, yeah, let's go. Go Buffs.
Let's go Buffs.